In the meantime, I'm going to hand you over to Maisy now, who is going to lead us through a draw along. So we're all going to learn how to draw a bat together. So without further ado, Maisy, over to you.
Fantastic, thank you. A little bit, so I will ask if people can just to turn off their videos just for now, just to make sure that you don't miss anything from me. We can switch them back on at the end, but yeah, I've moved to a new place, so new Wi-Fi. But yeah, let me just share my screen because I have a PowerPoint to go through. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, brilliant. So welcome everyone. A bit of a brief introduction from me. As mentioned, I'm a freelance artist and illustrator, but I also work in bat research. So as Kathy mentioned, I've worked with the Bat Conservation Trust before. I also currently work with Bats Without Borders, and I am a research technician at a university looking at the effects of artificial light on bat populations, as well as moths and hedgehogs, but I really do love the bats, if I'm allowed to be biased. I get involved with many different projects with my illustration. I've done classes for children, I've done kids' books, I've done classes for adults, and my main focus is that I love celebrating underdog species, so those species that are overlooked but are still just as ecologically important. So your wasps, your pigeons, and if I can, you know, draw them in a beautiful way, I like to think that maybe makes people think a bit differently about them. But I do quite like cats as well, and pets and things, so I do draw them as well. But yeah, and if you're interested, my work is available on t-shirts and things. I might share some links at the end if possible, but yeah, so I have some golden rules for drawing sessions. The main one is to have fun. So this session's not about perfection, it's not about being amazing at drawing. So if you find something new, it's just about having fun, and drawing bats can seem difficult to start with, but it's actually really good fun because there's loads of different techniques that I would love to share with you. The second golden rule is a bit counterintuitive. I want you to make mistakes because mistakes are really important to any kind of learning process and in any creative activity, and they can be interesting in and of themselves. Sometimes I've made mistakes. I think, oh, how did I do that? That was actually quite cool before. And you know, if you do want to improve your skills with drawing, it's all about practice. You know, people tell me, oh, you're so, you know, how do you get it? The fact is I just kept practicing, but it's important that it's fun. I think there's so much emphasis on creative activities being something that you have to be perfect at, with all these competitions we're seeing now, but actually fundamentally the best creative things are when it's fun. And my third golden rule is that everyone is an artist. Everyone's got their own style of drawing, and every drawing communicates something, even if all it communicates was, I found drawing this bat quite hard. You know, it's still giving something. Yeah, so today we're all going to be artists, we're all going to make mistakes, and we're all going to have fun. So without further ado, these brown long-eared bats, and they have fabulous long ears, so we'll be drawing something like this, and if we have time we'll draw a little church as well. So you'll need a pen or a pencil and some paper. I will be using permanent marker because I find that it shows up on video calls a lot better, but by all means that's a bit of a scary thing to start with, and you'll notice I will make mistakes that I can't undo because it is permanent marker. But yeah, pen or pencil is good to start with. As I mentioned, keeping cameras off will make sure that you can hopefully hear me and not miss any steps, but if there is any steps that are missed, do let me know. Do also let me know to go slower if needs be. Sometimes I can get carried away and keep drawing, but I will keep checking, and we'll do regular pauses to help you catch up on some steps. But yes, okay, let us begin. I will stop sharing my screen. twist you round. So the first step, well, arguably all the steps of drawing, is mapping out what you are drawing on your piece of paper. And this is particularly important for bats that are flying, because I used to draw bats and the wings used to just end up somewhere off the page, which is very easy to do. So we're going to map out where our bat's going to go to start with. And for bats in flight, I find that a fan shape is quite good. So we can start off with like a big arch coming over here. And then just pull it in either side. So we get kind of like a fanned triangle shape. And that's going to be our base for where our bat's going to go. And if you're drawing in pencil, you can rub that out afterwards. If you're drawing in pen, we'll just make it less interesting so you don't see it as much. Okie dokes. And then we also need to map where our bat's body is going to be. So in the middle, we just want a rough circle shape, sort of an oval shape, like that. Right there. And then we're going to think about the bat's wings, because it's very, very good if you want an anatomically accurate bat to map out where its wings are first. So I don't know how much people know about bats, but their Latin name is Chiroptera, which means hand wing, because their wings are made of their hands, so they do fly with the power of jazz hands. If you think about a human hand like that, but really long fingers and then skin between those fingers, you get a bat's wing. And this is really helpful for when we come to draw bats, because we can just look at our own hands and go, oh, how many fingers have I got? You know, where does the thumb go? And figure it out from there. So I'll do it on this side to start with. So we've got two joints to our arm. We've got that bit and that bit. So we're going to draw that bit first. And that bit's quite short on a bat, but that's going to come out there. Then we're going to draw our forearm. And this is a bit longer on bats. So that's just going to come up almost to the top of your triangle there. And then we're going to add the thumb. So a little sticky up thumb right here. And then bats' fingers are kind of like ours, except the first two for brown long-eared bats and quite a lot of the UK species are kind of stuck together. So they kind of fly like that. So we can draw our, I find it easier to draw the second finger first. So just going to draw a finger that comes out. You can do it slightly off the edge if you want. And then that stuck finger just kind of comes out there a bit, like that. So once we've done that, we've got that bit and that bit. We've now got two more fingers to do. So again, they are much, much longer. And you can add the three joints. So 1, 2, 3. Or if you don't really want to go into that much detail, just a straight line will do. I do either. So on the other side, it's exactly the same. So we've got that bit of our arm, which is there. We've got the forearm, which comes up there. We've got the little thumb at the top, which goes there. The main second finger, I'm just going to follow that line, actually, that's in exactly the right place. And then that extra finger just up there. And then once we've done that, we've got those two more fingers. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. there we go. So our bat's looking pretty good, mapped out. But there's still some more places where the wing membrane is going to join. And that's the bat's tail and the bat's legs. So brown long-eared bats have a fairly long tail, but it's kind of joined in, so that can just be a line from the body. Nice and easy step, that one. And then their legs are kind of similar to ours, but their knees bend backwards, and that helps sort of crawling around. So the legs are going to come out, so we've got that bit, which is like the bat's thigh, I guess, and their leg coming down here. Same with the other side. And then you can just add a few toes. Like that. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, but do let me know if you need me to stop or repeat a step.
Sorry, Mary, do they have 5 toes or?
Do you know what? I've never checked. I've always considered that some toes are sometimes in front of each other and therefore you don't see all of them. Yeah, you don't have to be too specific. That is something I do need to look up. How many toes do brown long-eared bats have?
I've drawn 4 anyway. I don't know what everybody else has done.
Yeah, I think I've done 3.5 on this foot and 4 on this one. But yeah, what I find, actually, it's a good point, is that when you're drawing animals, it's good to pay a lot of attention to the face, because as humans we make eye contact with animal pictures as like the first thing. So actually the rest of the image you don't have to be as precise on, because as long as you can make the face look really good, that will be where people look first and make the first judgment about your piece of art. So I found I can sometimes get away with, you know, when I'm doing pet portraits, if I can make the face look really good, I don't really need to worry about what the paws look like, because they're somewhere else in the image. But there, that's a little naughty cheat that I do.
In a box downstairs, would you like me to go and count them?
Oh, wonderful.
I might miss some of your drawing if I go and count them. It might take me a while.
Oh. Well, okay, cool. So then the next step is the most fun, I find, which is joining up all the wing bounces, as I call them. And this is really easy because we've got our map already. So we just need to join up the tips of each finger. So you go 1 wing bounce, 2 wing bounce, and then a big wing bounce that joins to the bat's ankle on that side. And again the other side, so just quickly join up the extra finger. 1 wing bounce, 2 wing bounce, big wing bounce to the ankle. And then the middle bit's easy, just from the ankle to the bottom of the tail and back again. And then there's this bit which I always forget, which I think the technical term is called the propatagium, which is from the wrist here to the shoulder. And I do often forget to draw it, but there we go. We've remembered our propatagiums today. And our next step is also very exciting, because we're going to be drawing the lovely long ears that brown long-eared bats are so famed for. So to do these, we're going to start off right in the middle of the head, because brown long-eared bats' ears actually join in the middle of their heads. So we want a nice big swoop coming out of one side. And then I like to think of their ears there's a kind of bounce in the middle of them. So this sort of got like a lobe shape. So you can kind of curve it round like that, and then just join the very edge of that back to the body of the bat. Alternatively, you could just draw a big oval. Either works. So I'll repeat that step with the other ear. Big swoop out. One curve in, and then just join it up to the top of the head there. I find that proportions for these bats with really big ears are quite sometimes quite hard to judge. So I do have to sometimes draw a few practice runs just to try and get it right. Okie dokes. So after we've done that ear, we're going to have a bit of a fun time looking at all the structures of a brown long-eared bat's ear, because they find their food by echolocation, but because they have such big ears, they can do this thing called gleaning, which is where they can simply listen to insects. So they can hear beetle footsteps and moth wing flaps and crazy, crazy tiny little sounds that are completely, you know, that we absolutely have no way of hearing. And that means that they don't need to shout so much, but it means that their ears have to have a different structure to a lot of the other UK bat species. So the first bit is just kind of a general fold in the ear. So we're going to want to come out from here and then just draw a line up that kind of tapers to the top of the ear. That's just the edge. I mean, it probably serves a scientific focus, but I don't know of that one. So yeah, there and there. And then on the inside, we want a really cool bit of kit, which is the tragus. So that's just like a little triangle shape, like a little spike that sits behind the fold that we've just drawn, like that. I'll bring you a bit closer so you can see. And I'll draw one on the other side, just a little triangle shape in there. And they think that that helps sort of help the bat kind of direct the noise into the ear. But yeah, still lots of science to happen as far as the exact acoustics of bat ears are concerned, but would be very interesting. And then after we've done that, bats' ears have a lot of folds. So when brown long-eared bats go to sleep, their ears curl round like ram's horns. And when they're stretched out, you can still sometimes see the folds. They're going to do little arch shapes from the edge of the ear, going down like that. And again, these might help focus the sound into the ear, but they're kind of like a collapsible ear for sleeping purposes, like that. So yeah, I'll just leave a little bit of time just to help people catch up, because I have whizzed through the bat ear steps quite fast. Trying to think of more brown long-eared bat facts. I did meet a brown long-eared bat once when I was doing I did a children's book for the Berkshire Bat Group, just a few illustrations for them. And his name was Crispin, because when he was found, unfortunately, his wings were a bit damaged and he looked quite crispy. So unfortunately that name stuck, but he was very charming individual. Yeah, was a good ambassador species. So I mean, ideally, you know, all bats that come into care can be released, but unfortunately, because of Crispin's damaged wings, he couldn't be released. But he did a very important role in conservation, which was teaching children that bats aren't scary and actually they're fantastic and we should be protecting them. So well done, Crispin. He gets points from me. Okie dokes. So I think we'll start on the face. So brown long-eared bat noses are quite big and they're quite swirly. So I found that a quick way of doing them is, I'll do it over here, big to start with. So I just kind of do a spiral shape that comes out and then joins another spiral shape like that, like a, I don't know, like a fancy pastry or something. So I'll just do a smaller one here, like that. And that's a good way of drawing the nostrils as well. But yeah, it doesn't have to be too precise. And then the eyes, I just do kind of like the edge of a circle, but I leave a little bit of white, which you might not be able to see on the camera. And that just gives like the indication that the eye is 3D. So just that little glimmer of light. So if I draw it big, I kind of do something that looks like that, but much smaller. There we go, like that. And I'm sure you're all very aware, but I do like telling people that blind as a bat is scientifically an accurate term, because bats have actually quite good eyesight. They're just better at hearing, so they use that more, but they can still see quite well. So yeah, next time someone says that, you go, well, actually, they're quite good at seeing things. Okie dokes, so our bat now has a face, but it's looking a bit cold, so we need to give it lots of lovely fur. And this I find is a good way to kind of just break up the outline that we've drawn just by doing those little dashes. And it's important when you're drawing fur of any animal that you try and follow a direction, because if you just did fur kind of here, there and everywhere, I mean, you know, some animals are like that, hedgehogs sometimes from certain directions, but it's kind of a bit disheveled and messy, and actually quite a lot of animals have fur that kind of runs in at least some kind of line. Oh, Rose is saying that hers look like a flying pineapple. That's fantastic. I think mine looks at, yeah, I can kind of see that. Yeah, bats can be flying pineapples now. But yeah, so, and then we're wanting to fill in the fur, and I find what yeah, so I find that what it's quite common to do is you kind of want to follow a pattern when you're doing your dashes. Like it can sometimes end up in lines, and it actually, I mean, this was something I struggled with, and it takes a bit of practice to actually kind of let your wrist go loose and just kind of make it a bit more random as to where the fur falls. But we're also wanting to be a bit structured with it, so maybe from the left edge just do slightly more fur than the right edge, and that'll give us the indication that this side is in shadow. And it's quite a good mark making technique. It does take a bit of practice. How much fur to do over the face? Yeah, you can kind of see there we've got that area in shadow. And what I find works quite well is if you kind of squint your eyes at it and you look at that kind of blend and you think, is that smooth? If it's not, go in, add a couple more bits of fur, think, yeah, no, that's looking good. And that can, again, take a bit of practice. Oh, Kathy's saying, looks nothing like mine. Well, that's good, quite frankly, because if we all had identical bats, it wouldn't be as fun. Yeah, I never like it when people draw exactly what I draw. I did this, did a kind of drawing session with children, And I loved how like the crazy directions that they'd taken my instructions, because like some people were like adding moths, and some did really cute eyes on their bats. So I do like seeing the variation, so it's good. If yours looks nothing like mine right now, you should be proud. You are exercising your artistic ability, so that's all good. Cool, so we'll do a bit more mark making, I think. And how I tend to do bats is that I do dashes for fur and dots for their skin, so their ears and things like that. And just kind of like how we did here, with more dashes where it's darker, less dashes where the light's hitting it. We're going to do the same but around the ear. So we'll do it in the order that we drew it. So on the left hand side of the fold, we're just going to fill it with just some dots along the edge. Just up there, like that. And that instantly kind of creates a bit of a 3D illusion. So on the left-hand side of that, and then we can also use this as a means of giving the eye an idea as what's behind another thing. So the tragus, which is behind the fold, will have dots along its left-hand side, along the edge there, and also at the bottom. And instantly that pushes it behind that fold. I'll bring you a bit closer, hopefully you can see that a bit better. And then the back of the ear is behind both the fold and the tragus, so this is going to have lots of dots in, right from that corner down there. They're going to spread out across the whole ear. And again, this is where most people who ever hear me drawing just hear dot, 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 because a lot of my drawing style has ended up being dots. So again, just taking the left-hand edge of everything, and it's almost like you're spreading darkness like butter on toast. You know, like a lot of it where the knife goes on the bread and then it smears out kind of out that way, like that. And again, squint your eyes, think, does that blend look how I want it? Add a few more dots here and there. Like that. And again, for the other ear, I mean, if we were doing it accurately in terms of lighting, we would still go from the left-hand edge going that way. But I think it's just easier if we do the right-hand side for the left ear. So again, dots along that fold of the ear, dots inside the tragus, and then dots behind the ear, behind the whole thing inside. Yeah, that makes sense. It's not grammatically correct. Like that. I find that using chunky pens is actually quite fun, because it creates much more emphasis on mark making, and you think, well, how does the thing that I'm creating, be it dots, dashes or squiggles, how is that conveying kind of the texture that I want? And you can mess around with it and do different, like maybe dots instead of dashes or that kind of thing, and have a good play with it. I remember in my art class once, someone did mark making by continuously writing out their phone number and overlapping that. And I think she drew a picture of an orange or something just using her phone number, which was quite amazing. So yeah, it's a fun thing to just mess around with and doodle. But yeah, in the interest of time, we're going to move on to the wings. And this is nice and easy. So kind of how we did with the dashes, we're wanting to drag the pen and let it taper like that. So you get like a good point. I'll do it somewhere it's a bit more visible, like that. So just let it kind of fall off the paper. And we're going to wanting to do that in curved shapes to kind of follow the shape of the wing. So from the left-hand edge again, pulling those arch shapes up like that. And what that kind of tapering does is kind of gives that 3D effect again, because it makes the pen thinner towards that side. So we can do that all across, and then this bit is always hard because it's a big space to fill. So you can do bigger ones, but it doesn't really matter. I find the direction gets a bit tricky because you kind of go up there, but it's fine. Just do a few dashes, whatever looks about right, like that. And this is straightforward. This is just for every single wing section, so from the legs as well. You can see I'm using a chisel tip pen, so sometimes it comes out thicker than I need it to. And again, from this side, the left-hand edge. Oop. I don't know. Lines up there, maybe? Does that look right? I don't know. It's a hard space to fill. I mean, if you ever want, and I do recommend doing this, if you ever sit down and if you actually look at that wing membrane, so they're stretched skin, but there's loads of muscle fibers within the skin and loads of blood vessels and things. And so the patterns actually within a bat's wing membrane aren't uniform like I do for these tutorials. There's loads of texture and loads of things that you can just get completely absorbed in. And I, in my many years of drawing bats, have never managed to fully kind of express just how intricate and detailed a bat's wing membrane is to a standard that I am personally happy with. So yeah, by all means, if you fancy a challenge, really look at a bat's wings and try and draw all the patterns that they have. But just for now, we can do the easy method, which still looks pretty realistic. So filling those all the way up, like that. And then my favourite texture for a bat is squiggles, and kind of how we did with the pen, kind of letting it taper, let the squiggle taper like that. So and it gives an indication of those muscle fibres in between each of these lines. So just from the left-hand edge again, filling it in with squiggles. And they'll get smaller and smaller as they go up. And then again, you can just spend all day filling in the details of a bat's wing membrane. It can help fill this space with the squiggles a bit more. But yeah, that will take a while. By all means, fill that in at your own time. I'm just aware that we are slightly running out of time, and I did want to do a little church just to make it super relevant to today's session. I'm not as good at drawing churches as I am at drawing bats, but let's give it a go. So for this, we're wanting a 3D shape. For that, it's all about angles. So to start with, we're going to have the edge of the roof kind of coming out here. So you want two edges like that with a gap in between. This one is going to go off and form a triangle this way. A triangle, that's a squashed square. Rhombus, I think it's called. So yeah, one edge becomes a rhombus. The other will be out of sight. Then we want a nice church tower. So we're just going to create a tower like that with a little triangle at the top as a roof. And again, as we have done here, that kind of squashed rhombus shape, we're going to do a little one at the top like that, and then just join that to the rest of the building. You'll notice now that I am definitely not an architect because that is a structure that would not stay upright. But yeah, and then we're wanting the edges of the church, so just do a few lines down from the edges of the roof. And then this wall is going to be joined up here. So again, another kind of squashed rhombus, but coming off the bottom of that. And then just joining it up at the bottom like that. And a door, make sure people can go inside. And then you can add a little thing at the top like that. And then kind of as we have done, if you want to make it look a bit more 3D, you can do some dashes on the roof in one corner like that, which can make it kind of seem like it's 3D, like the lights on it. Like that. There we go. My first attempt at drawing a very quick church. Do some dots as well. But yeah, I think that's everything from here. Can't see any questions in the chat. Yeah, I mean, in your own time, you can just fill in the rest of the squiggles. We did run out of time just a little bit. But yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed it. And if people want to share, turn their cameras on and share what they've done. I really love seeing what people have managed. But yeah, completely up to you. But as I say, yeah, we are all artists, so whatever you've done, it will be amazing.